Holidaymakers facing a summer of chaos already as COVID rules on foreign travel are driving confusion.
Yeah, with travel, testing and quarantine rules ever-changing, what can we do to save our summer plans? To answer your questions and more, we're joined by aviation expert Alex Macheris, Lisa Minogue, travel editor from The Sun, and we have Malcolm Bell, chief executive of Visit Cornwall, who is in the middle of the sea there, down in the Isles of Scilly, I think, this morning for us. Malcolm, let's talk to you first, if we may, because, of course, staying at home in the UK has become the choice of many people now, rather than taking the risk of travelling and having travel plans ruined. What are your concerns? Because I know that cases are increasing down in the southwest, aren't they? I mean, post the G7 summit, some expectation that it may well have been that. But you're suggesting that when people come down to Cornwall or Devon or anywhere in the UK, that they actually test themselves before they go and they take tests with them?
Yes, that's right. Well, first of all, is make sure you book ahead and make sure you plan everything, because it is very busy and we don't want people disappointed. But we're asking people to test. If you're going back to the workplace, you would actually be testing before you went back, testing, during the time and testing the following week. What we're asking people to do is not only test, but bring the test with them. Because say if you did get positive the week before, it gives you the chance then to cancel the holiday, get your money back and then not lose your holiday and your money. So it's in everybody's interest. But also to remind people that the virus is in Cornwall in the southwest. So, you might be on holiday, might be taking a break, but the virus isn't. So we all need to just stay on our guard, have a great time, but just remember the virus is still here. We are still in a pandemic.
So you're advising people to get tested and take tests, but it's not a requirement, is it? Is it? I mean, I just wonder whether domestically you think there should be a requirement for domestic travel.
I think because it's a lateral flow test, it's got to be a request, because if you said you must, it's very easy just to ignore it or say you have and you haven't. So what we're doing is actually this is in everybody's interest. We've got a summer of understanding. You've got to understand the virus is still here. You've got to understand that certain things are extra this year, the planning and lots of other things, but also just really strongly requesting that people take those tests, but also other things around, if you do get poorly, phone your own doctor, lots of things that are actually slightly different this year. But it's still a great time to holiday in the UK. But we are in a pandemic. You've got to take these extra precautions and extra requirements, please. It is a please and it is a request.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk to Alex Macheris, because, of course, you're an aviation expert, Alex. We've got lots of people getting in touch with us this morning asking questions about travelling abroad. If you're lucky enough to be going to the Isles of Scilly, where Malcolm is this morning, which is a beautiful part of the world, of course, that's fantastic, because you don't actually have to fly. But we've got a lot of our viewers that are flying. Trudy says, we're booked from last year, a trip in October to Lanzarote, not sure whether to move it to next year, because it's on an Amber Plus list. We also have a trip to Vegas in September for 5 days. Is the US open to Brits yet? They've got a few things booked. What are the COVID rates now with these different variants? So let's talk about Lanzarote first, in the Canary Islands. What would be your suggestion? They've got a trip booked in October.
Sure. OK, so the concern there was about the whole Amber Plus thing. Of course, Spain isn't on Amber Plus. However, Amber Plus actually hasn't even been acknowledged by the UK government or the Secretary of State for Transport. It's something that France remains on only, and there are fears that other countries could join. But as of now, it remains on Amber. So if they're double jabbed, they can go, come back, they don't have to quarantine. But of course, everything changes. By October, we could have a whole new travel policy. It's simply too far in advance. On the US side of things, that's really important, because the USA maintained the ban on travellers from the UK. This is a ban that has stretched for well over a year now. The US say they are very concerned with the rise in cases, and just a week ago, on Freedom Day, the UK was added as the highest risk category from the US's CDC. So we're really unsure as to when that ban will end.
Yeah, Alex, it's interesting that you mention the distinction between France, which is on Amber Plus, Spain, which could be on Amber Plus. That's the fear. And obviously that traveller thought that the Canary Islands already were on Amber Plus. There is so much confusion about this. And when you contacted me over the weekend, because you told me a story of an elderly couple who'd booked flights back in January. They travelled 80 miles to the airport this weekend to fly. They found out that the airline does not travel to that destination anymore. So even if you think you have a trip booked or a flight booked, you need to check if it's even going ahead.
You do. And, you know, this was the perfect case study of, unfortunately, for this innocent couple who had booked their travel in January and, you know, and were heading to the airport in July thinking it was all business as usual. They didn't have their contact details, their correct email address and phone number in the booking, meaning the airline, which has, of course, has changed schedules 100 times since the January lockdown, had no way of letting them know that actually we don't even fly from this airport anymore. And so this innocent couple arrived to an airport, not where there's no flights to their destination, but actually where the airline doesn't even exist in operations anymore at that terminal. So, you know, these are really difficult times. Travel is not like how it used to be. And that is a great kind of point now to say that make sure that if you are traveling, your contact details are fully up to date, because flight times are changing, airports are moving around terminals as they battle these wave of restrictions.
Lisa, let's come to you, because on that point about cancelling flights, Chris Gibbons has contacted us saying he's booked to go to Mexico at the end of August. TUI keeps cancelling it, even though it's amber. Mexico is open to everyone else but us, it seems. Should I start thinking of going somewhere else instead? What's your understanding of trying to fly to Mexico?
Well, I mean, at the moment, yes, you can fly to Mexico with some of the other airlines like British Airways. I think with TUI, it's a case of they're looking at the risk involved in terms of whether that country might possibly turn onto the Amber Plus or the Red List, and also the demand. You know, when you've got a charter flight going long haul to Mexico, you have to have enough people willing to take that flight to make it worthwhile for TUI to do that. And I think this is where the situation has become, the demand isn't there. These onerous travel restrictions, the fact that you have lots of testing requirements and the rules are changing so quickly means that that's really dampened demand. And TUI aren't going to send an entire plane to Mexico unless they can fill it with passengers.
And you're over there in France, where there is this bespoke Amber Plus scenario for when you come back. But there are also restrictions on British travellers when they go into France, aren't there?
There are restrictions if you have not been vaccinated. In fact, if you have not been vaccinated, you would have to quarantine for 7 days. And also you have to have an essential reason to come into the country. For those who are double jabbed, like myself, actually, it's really easy. You fill in a simple form to say that you have no signs of COVID and you show that you are double vaccinated, and there are no tests to get into the country.
But when you come back to the UK, it's going to be different.
Excuse me, yes, it will be different. We are hoping that this week the rules will change, and that the Amber Plus requirement we have at the moment, which means you have to have a pre-departure test to get back into the UK, quarantine for 10 days and take tests on days 2 and 10. We're really hoping that that will change this week and France will go back onto the normal Amber List, which will mean it will simply be a case of a pre-departure test and a test on day 2 and no quarantine. That's the most important bit.
It is so complicated, isn't it? Lots of people, loads and loads of questions. We haven't really got time to answer them. I guess, Malcolm, I just wonder if we come back to you, because, of course, you know, it's such an important time for the South West, the holiday time. So much of the economy is built on tourism and getting the tourists down there and looking after them safely. But I've got family down in Cornwall, and I know that a lot of the local people down there are very concerned because the infrastructure isn't necessarily set up for the number of people that are coming down and the rising number of cases there are in the South West as well. What are the feelings from the people that you know that are down there in Cornwall, just the local people, with regards to that balance, the balance of needing to get the tourists down but also putting the infrastructure under so much pressure?
I think that's the real challenge this year, and that's why we're discouraging what is often called wild camping. It's fly camping. That's why we're saying you've got to book. But also we're giving those messages about it. Bring your prescription drugs with you, contact your own doctor, you know, look at things like 111 and the minor injuries unit. You know, please just don't go to A&E. We've got one major hospital. So we're just pumping out those messages all the time. And it's why people have got to do a bit more planning and a bit more consideration. We're also asking people, as I said, for a summer of understanding of be patient, be tolerant. You know, and that's on everybody. You know, we can all have a good time, but there will be lots down here. We've got more beaches than there are days of the year, so please spread out. And basically just do that little bit more planning and a bit more understanding, because it is going to be very busy and hopefully very sunny soon.
Yes, let's hope so.